Us for this. I love doing some of our radio interviews. They're always a great way for our voters to get an idea of who our candidates are. So let's go right into it. Why are you running for city council?
Absolutely. Well, again, my name is Jeffery Malick. I've lived here for about 6.5 years now. When we moved from the East Coast, my wife and I, and we were looking for a place to go. That's affordable and things like that. And everybody's, oh, you're going to go to Santa Clarita. It may still be expensive, but it's affordable and it's beautiful. You get more for your money. So we've been here for about 6.5 years now. I like it so much that I convinced my mother to sell her house in Rhode Island after 30 something years. And now she lives in Canyon Country, like 10 feet dysfunctional feet away from me. So now I'm here for good, right? So again, I work as a chief of staff for a high-level recruitment company. I've worked in HR, board investor relations, administrative stuff, but really my whole entire life, I think I have like 20 plus years of administrative work behind me. So I believe that it's time for politicians to stop thinking about themselves and really no matter what side you're on, start listening and put the community first. I've never been a politician. I'm an activist. I'm always the person yelling at the politician on the other side. But I realize now I'm in the seat of being that politician, but I'm going to remain an activist. And people seem to be afraid of the word activism. It has the word right in it. It's action. It just means, actions speak louder than words. So I started really getting involved in this community. I started speaking at city council meetings. There were some videos that went viral of me about speaking on, and these topics were specific to a situation that happened at my community in the fight against white supremacy in our community. So I was speaking on that. Those videos went viral. The community kind of got behind me, said, hey, you should run for city council. And I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. I'm the person that's always up there speaking and whatnot. But, listening to a lot of people, that really got me to think about it. It's I don't care how cliche it is. I will always say this over and over again. It's not about me, and it's never going to be. It's about listening to the community and on a list of several different topics. And I'm here for that. I feel that I can come and break down walls and really listen to both sides in the community and put the community first. And it's time for change. I think when you have people that are in a position too long, just complacency comes into place, and it's just time for something new. And here I am.
So your goal is to essentially bridge that gap between a member of the community as an activist to being a part of the actual governing body.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way to put it, because actually I'm going to go to the city council tomorrow and speak there. And normally I have a planned out speech, but I think I'm just going to speak to the heart on this one. All 9 of us that are in the race right now, we've been being asked questions and, all the different topics, top priorities and everything. And I look at the agenda that the city council is doing each week, and I don't think any of those items that you'll ask me today or that any of the forums are actually part of that agenda. So I kind of want to just speak to them in general and kind of say why, or invite Mr. Striplin, who's our city manager, invite him to the next debate that's going to happen at the end of this month, and just listen to the community, listen what they're asking, listen to what their concerns are, because yes, there's 5 of us up there, but we don't rule the entire town. We're not kings. We need to we may have our opinions and everything, but we need to listen to the community and what they want. And again, none of those items are actually on the agenda right now. So I really think that we need to listen, put them on and address them, invite the experts into the room and listen to people and make strategies from there, not whatever special interests or whatever are going on.
And something I want to mention, if you're listening, is that a lot of these issues we're going to discuss that are priorities for the city of Santa Clarita are also concerns for the entire valley, which includes the outside communities of Castaic, Valverde, Stevenson Ranch, and parts of Canyon Country, which I know that there's a lot of people I meet have no idea where the city borders are.
Yeah.
And so I'll see people who are living in Castaic going, we have to call City Hall. And it's like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
We have the same issues. We're a part of the same community. But you have to realize that, unfortunately, you're not within city lines. You're going to have to call the county for that. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that because I know that it is confusing for some people.
No, when I learned that, I was like, wait, it takes 30 more minutes to go up you're not part of Santa Clarita. You're part of the one that's even further below, like Philly, LA County. So yeah, no, I agree with that. It's across the nation. A lot of these issues, like homelessness, for example, it's nothing new. I just think that addressing it needs to be escalated. I think there's a lot of issues at this point that need to be escalated beyond just doing what has been done in the past. I think we need to try new things, and you're going to hear me say this word a million times today. Listen. So.
Well, it's a good thing we're on the radio. It's a great place to listen.
Yes, and you're listening now.
What do you believe to be the top 3 most pressing concerns for our community at large and the city of Santa Clarita?
So I love that question because it's such a political question. Like, what are your top 3? And I wrote them down because I want to make sure I don't miss any, and I'll highlight my top 3. But I'm really, again, I mentioned the word activist. I'm running to have action. I'm going to approach everything with the same passion. I know people understand me as the progressive guy, but that same passion I have maybe in an issue with white supremacy, I'm going to approach it all the same way. To the affordable housing, God, that's awful right now. Homelessness, local parks, protecting our environment, benefits for small businesses, youth in schools, improving healthcare, especially mental health, senior services. We're in a huge water shortage right now, creating jobs, veterans affairs, drug abuse, LGBTQIA plus rights, women's rights, and the fight against white supremacy. So there's a lot of issues. Amongst those, if I had to highlight the top 3, I would say that's probably housing, the homelessness, and a group of those I guess I would categorize under the topic of public safety. So, and again, within public safety, I would say working with law enforcement interactions to make sure if you're BIPOC, like, you're not afraid to call the police. You're not afraid to interact with them when there's a problem. I was witness to a situation in Canyon Country where there was a group of young boys. They called the police, and they were the ones there was a person with a knife flaring it at them, and instead the police held them at gunpoint instead. So having that trust in them and just working with them, there's a program within, I believe it's Raleigh, South Carolina, having social workers work hand in hand with the police on, especially if there's issues with, if it's reported when the 911 call, hey, there may be an issue mental health related. Working that, I don't know the numbers, but I think there's been positive movement in that program with social workers working together with police force. So that's when I talk about police interaction with the community. I'm talking about that. Again, homelessness, they don't need to be judged. This needs to be empathy for our homeless community. Mental health is just, there's so many different aspects to mental health when it comes to either our youth or even our veterans within schools, bullying, racism. There's many different aspects of mental health, and then I don't think one person can deny that the drug, especially abuse especially with fentanyl, is a big issue right now. So those are my top.
That's a real broad. So let's go back to that.
Yep.
It's housing and homelessness, which those are inherently interconnected.
Yep.
It's like we've said before in a lot of our other segments, is that these are not one-dimensional issues. Right. There's facets to each of them, and inherently they're tied together. And then public safety at large. Yeah. And you referenced a specific event. I believe it happened was that 2020? Mm-hmm. I think it was, where the police were called and 3 teenagers were held at gunpoint outside of the Buffalo Wild Wings. Yes. And there was also a homeless individual involved in that situation.
Yes. Yeah. So that ties in, like you just said, everything ties in. So unfortunately,
you're talking about youth, you're talking about public safety and how law enforcement responds. How youth should be acting as well, how the people who witnessed this situation weighed in on it, as well as how the situation was treated involving somebody who had mental health issues.
There was and that probably played the largest aspect of that individual. Unfortunately, you can never understand what somebody's going through. What their life could turn a million different ways. So, am I saying that having social workers and police would have changed that situation? No, I'm saying that it's been tried one way. We've seen, especially in society, a lot of things that have gone wrong. So let's try something new. Let's try something that has proven to work, like in Raleigh, at working with social workers. In that type of situation, we could have tried that. Maybe it would have had a different outcome. If you can't be afraid to fail if you want to be successful. And I feel on both sides, and I keep saying both sides. I know this is a nonpartisan race, but let's be honest. On both sides of the aisle, people are afraid, oh, let's not do that because this will happen, let's not do that. The worst problem you can have is there's too many ideas in a room. Everybody thinks that they know what is best and whatnot, and then it becomes like what I said about the beginning. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about what the community wants. So I think when there's too much talking and speaking going around and too many ideas flying around without someone to facilitate that, or caring to facilitate that, I think that's when we end up moving backwards. And that's how I look at myself stepping into this seat. You asked me at the beginning, why am I running? I work as a chief of staff. I've been an executive assistant. So I feel like that facilitating role is already part of me inside. So that when I step into the seat, I'm going to do that. I'm going to facilitate everybody's ideas. I don't think we should ever talk on any one specific issue unless there's an expert in the room. So just different aspects like that. But I do like that you brought up the example of outside B-dubs, and I don't know if everybody else calls it B-dubs.
No, a couple people do.
Okay. Outside B-dubs, and again, yeah, there's many different, you can always tie something else into something. Small businesses, then that creates jobs, and so you can always tie something else. So that's why I listed them all off, because there's really, when I get in the seat, it's not like, okay, I said homelessness, that's what I have to do. It's someone's going to have to stop me from trying to do everything at once. That's where I'm coming at, because people need it. Everybody needs it on both sides, and they need attention. They need someone to listen. So
you actually segued really well into my next question, which was what skills and experience would you bring to the city council?
Yeah. I like to say that I have a personality for everyone. I have this, yes, I can be, if you've seen any of the videos I've done, they slowly got more aggressive. But I have this, way of speaking about me, and when I walk in the room, I'm thinking about someone else, not myself. That's just how it's always been. Again, as I mentioned, about 20 plus years working in administration, HR related roles, board relations, investor relations, contract negotiations. So I feel like, and again, I mentioned I have a personality for everyone. It takes me 30 seconds to read someone and how to interact with them. I don't necessarily want to force my story upon anybody when I'm meeting with them. I care more about that person's story. I care more about why they walked into the room. I care more about what's going to help them. I feel all too much every time you go to a city council meeting, somebody will come in and speak, and then there's no interaction ever, whether that's against the rules or whatever. They could speak. And then it's just, okay, that died. That's the end of that. And nothing happens. So my relationship building with people, I think will be a benefit. Because again, I get it. I'm the progressive guy. I got the tattoos on my arm. Everybody's probably seen my website at this point. But I just want everybody who's listening, everybody who knows me, or who doesn't know me, to understand that I'm coming at this with the experience of working with a wide spectrum of people. A wide spectrum of experience, a wide spectrum of knowledge, and the way I do things is always community first, no matter what the topic is. If somebody, for example, I had an opinion about this community wanting to, quote unquote, purchase William Hart Park from LA County. Okay. To me, that's a common sense thing. It's here in Santa Clarita. Santa Clarita wasn't established until 1987 or something like that.
87, yeah.
87 when I was born. And so, but William Hart died well before that. Mm-hmm. So common sense would be to, okay, if he was alive during the same time, he probably would have willed it there. But there's another community member, I won't name names, but that I was speaking to that felt like we should honor the will, and that there's a lot of money being wasted, almost $1 million in repairs and everything, and it's a huge expense with no revenue coming into it. And I hadn't thought of that yet. This person that I was speaking to, we don't necessarily agree on almost anything. But I agreed on that, actually. And I asked him to send me stuff. We had a conversation together. I think we ended up friending each other on Facebook. I think, September 11th just happened this past Sunday, and I don't think anybody can disagree on what a tragedy that was. The disclaimer to that for me is that led to a massive amount of racism and media portraying all Muslim as bad. But so I want to disclaim that, because that is a huge thing. So, but when I'm talking about unity, I mean the day after, everyone went and gave blood. Everyone was supporting another, holding another person. That crime, there was that sense of unity and wanting to be together, to listen, to help each other. There was the Proud to Be an American song going out. That part right there, that little part, I think we've forgotten. No matter, on both sides, because there's so much passion, I think that we need to come back to that. I think that we need to remember, and we need to work together with the understanding that sometimes listening is better. Me, I am a privileged white dude, right? My wife has dealt with racism her entire life. So I listen to her. I've learned so much from her on a daily basis. I have friends, I'm a member of the NAACP. I listen to them. So when I speak on racism, it's not what I want. It's what I've listened and learned from the community. And any topic that we talk about, that's the approach I have. And that's the way I would work with people. And that's the way that I hope people would eventually look at me as he's not a hard guy to get through to, because I'm really not. Maybe I look intimidating or whatever, but I'm really not. I enjoy conversations with people. I'm not going to play the game when it comes to certain things. I will have my opinions on things, but I am always open to a conversation as long as it benefits the community and not just who's in the room.
Very detailed answer. Good work. So let's move on to a couple of those issues. So these are as a result of a poll conducted by the city. They went over some of the concerns that the community had. And surprising absolutely no one, it's pretty much the exact same answers that we've been hearing for the same last several years. Overdevelopment, which affects traffic, and nobody likes traffic, as we can see is with what's going on in Castaic right this very moment.
Yes, tell me about it.
And then homelessness, which we already touched on a little bit. And then we also had some concerns about the impacts of the one-size-fits-all emergency health mandates. Let's go over a couple of those. Let's start with overdevelopment. What can the city council do about that, or what would your goal be as a member of the city council?
So I wouldn't say dead stop, right? I'd say let's pause a second and look at what we're doing. Apparently there's affordable housing that's being built here. You find me one person, one developer, or point me in a direction that shows that that's affordable. My wife and I are dying to buy a house here. Bank of America just came out with this program that it's zero down everything, basically. We were so excited. We went to Bank of America. Nada. No, we don't qualify for the program. Basically, if you are middle class, it's not for you. The places that they're just townhomes, not actual homes, and they're not very kept up well by the landlords. You can tell. We were looking at it on there. So there's not one affordable place being built here. So I look at that and I'll tie in the homeless shelter that is apparently being built. They gave, I think it's $2 million or something like that, and the very conveniently, all of a sudden, the mayor said that they have the designs, they look great, and all of a sudden, right? You spoke to Cody and Moore on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you were beyond impressed with the amount of knowledge that he has in regards to homelessness in this community, because he is homeless.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with that is, you know how many times he's come and spoken at city council, very, very emotionally spoken and very well prepared, brought his receipts, everything. Still not on the agenda. So that's one thing. Stop, not full dead stop, but take a pause and look at what we're doing. Who asked for those developments in the first place? Did they consult members of the Sierra Club or anything like that, who, as we know, are very adamant about the environment here? I'm very adamant about the environment. Yeah, let's stop just building everywhere and not turn this into another New York or San Francisco. We were talking about this earlier, our love for both the environment and centers. I think one of the ways to create jobs in this community is we should focus on building two projects. There's one is we only have one hospital, we don't actually own it. So on the east side of Santa Clarita, that would be a great thing. But does that bring traffic? We need to talk about where it would be. We need to involve the experts in the room from the environment everywhere to talk about where that would best be. So I think when it comes to the overdevelopment stuff, I'm actually in 100% agreement everywhere I go. Especially, I live in technically what would be considered a low-income development area. We're being surrounded by beautiful places that no one that currently lives in Santa Clarita can actually afford. It's inviting outside money in, and it's like they're trying to turn this into like the next stage for, a housewives show or something like that, and it's turning into Calabasas, which is nothing wrong with that as long as we don't do just that. There's should be a place for everybody here, not just the rich white people in Santa Clarita. So, in regards to overdevelopment, I'm in very much agreement on that. I think probably there's a million different views on how to stop or fix that. So that's one of my opinions. Homelessness, I feel like some of the views of the people are, you see a homeless person and, oh my God, we got to cross the street, or there's no empathy for homeless persons. There's no understanding that. And I'm going to use my friend Cody. Cody is been homeless, I think, for a little less than a year or something. Don't fully quote me on that, but I think that's what he had mentioned to me. He's got a degree in mathematics. He was a teacher at a college. I'm not going to go into his story further than that without his permission, but everybody has a story to them. And we need to understand that mental health can be such a huge factor in destroying someone's life beyond their control, that we need to show empathy. And my opinion here is a strong one. I believe there is no empathy from our city council currently, because even the new designs, it only creates, I think there'll be like a total of just under 100 beds. I think there's 60 emergency beds now. There'll be 38 new ones in this place that looks like a random hotel or whatever. It's not even focused on the amount of beds, because I think this is a rough estimate, but 1,000 plus homeless members in our community.
Yeah, just to back you up on that one there, we have, I think, 30 beds or 60 beds right
60
now.
beds in Bridge
and then
to
they're
Home,
adding 30.
38.
38-ish. So it'll still be like 98, just under 100. And then I
Yeah.
believe they're getting rid of some of the beds
Yeah.
that are at the existing location and then moving to the other
Yeah,
place. So
they
you're still staying at under 100.
Yeah, and they haven't said, unless I've missed it, they haven't said exactly what they're going to do with that. Tear it down, make it a parking lot or something. It makes no sense. To me, you should keep that facility, because now if you get rid of that and now there's just new facility, now there's only 38 beds. You're just moving backwards. And I think the breaking ground on it, I don't even know the date of it, was quite some time ago. So like, what are you waiting for? There were several vacant places here. There are several ways to address homelessness in this community. I actually back my fellow colleague Cody on this, on the vacancy tax with landlords. It will force them to lower rent for people. Rent is just becoming ridiculous. Basically, people are like 1 or 2 paychecks away from being homeless themselves. The numbers of things, and I guess I could go over the numbers of things. I think housing expenses are like 118% higher here. Utilities are 7% higher here. Transportation is 27% higher here. Groceries are 13% higher here. And yet rent just keeps going up and up and up. And there's no jobs to negate that, or not enough jobs to negate that for people to actually be able to afford even where they live now. You know, I'm scared, you know, that I won't be able to afford my own place in 2 years. And I'm blessed to have a decent job. So that's a scary thought for anybody that doesn't, or there's a lot of artists in this community. How the heck do they afford things? You know, I know what that's like as well. My wife is an artist. So, you know, there's no empathy right now. And I think one of the first things I would do as a city council member is to come in, speak with Mr. Striplin himself, and find out what's going on, what's taking so long, what's the red tape, do we have to speak to a developer? Like, we need to get to the bottom of it, because it's been months now that you have literally Cody ran for city council to stop the homelessness problem because no one else was listening. What better way for somebody to actually run, or motivation to run from that is just the sign clear as day that no one else is listening, right? So a few different ways we give. I don't know, it's 10 million or just under 10 million, I think around 8 million to LASA every year, and they don't do anything. Should we break with LA County? I think that's probably coming sooner than later. I think we're getting a strong enough foundation on things that I think that's the intention of maybe some of the current council members as well, is to make that break, and then that money right there could easily go to something else more important. There's other different ideas. This is just an idea. I'm not saying it would work or anything, but it's something I would present and then want to listen to the other experts in the room. You know, there could be anywhere from per year $1 to $5 that every resident of Santa Clarita does. I think there's almost 250,000 people that live here. If it was $5, it's broken up in monthly. That could be 42 cents a month. Mm-hmm. What is that to most people here? Some people that can be a lot of money, but to most people here. So if you use the big number, that can be a little over just over $1 million just going straight to homelessness. So there's little ideas like that. I don't know if it would work, but just I think it should at least be presented, and then bring the experts into the room to actually address the problem before something bad. We seem to address things as a society after something bad happens. And that's my goal, is to avoid that from happening.
Which, something connected to that I want to go over real quick. We are running short on time.
I'm a talker, sorry.
No, it's all right. I did want to say, connected to the whole fentanyl crisis, and you mentioned public safety. Yeah. What more do you feel the city can be doing on that aspect? Yeah,
and you said we're quick on time. So fentanyl. I think our city doesn't, especially our city council, doesn't fully understand how to stop this whatsoever, because, for example, when it comes to cannabis, Proposition 64, we all know that was passed immediately after our council passed Ordinance 1612, mm-hmm. banning all dispensary sale and delivery of cannabis, specifically talking cannabis products now. That creates a black market, right? Because mm-hmm. you can't tell me people aren't still getting it here. So one of the things that we could do is repeal that ordinance specifically around cannabis. It allows dispensaries to come into our community again. It brings revenue to our community. But most importantly, it allows us to, whatever committee or whatever we'd have, to monitor that sale and delivery of it, because that's probably the most used, well, I can't say that, but it may be the most used drug in our community.
And it's something that we hear a lot. I'm going to jump in there. We hear a lot about, we have these illegal marijuana mm-hmm. grows, and it's mm-hmm. often the illegal marijuana that is then tainted with fentanyl, not laced. The safe, legal marijuana.
Yeah. So it's not going to, it wouldn't solve the problem. This is a short-term, long-term thing, right? A lot of people are saying law enforcement. Well, this is not a Steven Seagal movie where in an hour and a half that the law enforcement's going to take out every drug dealer there is and we're all good. So I definitely think law enforcement needs to be involved, but most importantly, the short term is the education aspect of it. Parents speaking to their kids. knowing, using these programs, getting training themselves on how to speak to their kids. Because if you just go out to your kid, and I don't have any children myself yet, although if my 3 cats and dog are listening, they may be upset. If you just go, are you using these drugs? We were, no matter who you are, everybody was a child or a kid or a teenager at one point. Yeah, exactly, right? So if you tell a teenager no, what do they want to do? They want to do it.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, the DARE program was that just say no to drugs.
Yeah, and then it proceeded to tell kids, hey, by the way, you can get high by sniffing glue. And they're like, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think they've gone a little further now. I actually donated to DARE. They were outside all the grocery markets the other day. And they've incorporated a mental health aspect to their program now, which I think is the most important part, because that part, like I said, there could be a side meetings or whatever for parents to know how to approach their kid, or signs. Learn the signs that your child may be showing, that they may be going through something. This is not about signing onto their phone and breaking your child's privacy to find it. It's gonna be done. People are gonna go do things and whatnot. We need to find the avenues, short term, long term, on how to get through the best possible avenue to get through and speak. We can't just wait. That's the most important part here. Is you can't just. It's not an addictive drug. You take a very, very small and you're dead. So it needs to happen now. It's more than just watching a video program. It's understanding, parents having counselors themselves and learning the correct techniques in conversation and language to use with their youth, depending on the age of the child or wherever they be, whether they're an athletic person, which may be more toned to using drugs if you're doing different sports or different things. I just think that there's so much more than just saying, let's send our law enforcement after them.
All right, thank you. Final question, in a few sentences or less. Why should the people of Santa Clarita vote for you?
Few sentences. Okay. Is that one?
3 or less.
Like I said at the beginning of this, this is not about me, and it's never going to be. It's about listening. And I truly believe a few things. I come with common sense. It's not very common. They misnamed it. When you're listening to somebody, and you're thinking of the next thing to say to them, what are you doing? You're not actually listening.
No.
That's the approach from my experience as a chief of staff, executive assistant, DEI program manager, and how I've worked with all aspects of my job. I plan on bringing that and facilitating that same way within my city council seat. I welcome everybody, no matter the idea, and just understanding I get one person can't change the world, but I'm going to make a dent.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was 2022 City Council candidate Jeffery Malick. You can learn more about him online and at KHTS Radio.